Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Jeff Erickson and Fred Zinkie here. Hope you're doing well. Hope you did not have Austin Gomber in your lineups yesterday or any other streaming disaster. There have been a handful of them. Fred, are you a Gomber man?
I had no Gomber. The walks were a concern for me. The walk rate this year, the strikeout to walk rate was not good. I'm taking 0 victory laps on this. I do understand why people picked him up for the 2 starts. Anytime you can get a pitcher who's a Coors Field pitcher, but isn't at Coors Field all week, makes some sense. So I'm not taking any victory laps, but I was not a Gomber man in any leagues. Were you?
I was not, but I had bids on him. So I can't really claim victory on this one either here. And it's just, and you're going to have some, I ate that Giolito start last week, and others, Joe Ross has been looming around. Lance McCullers had a bad one. There's a few of them out there that have been hurt. At least if you had Ross, you also got the win at the end of the week if you're trying to do a 2-stepper with him.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't know how this week will go for Gomber in the end. Like, it's not going to be good, but if he gets a win in his second start, it's not good. But at least you got one win out of it, and I don't know. I think I saw some people on Twitter saying like, "Oh, this is why you don't stream pitchers," and I don't know. I think those people have not been in a contest like the main event or the online championship or something like that before. Like, you have to make some aggressive moves sometimes. I think that's easy in certain situations to say that, but if you want to compete in a big contest, I think you got to take some risks. I think with Gomber, one of the things I've been trying to think about this year is if I'm going to pick up someone for a 2-start week, I think it has to be someone who I think is at least good enough that I might want to keep them after the week. And Gomber felt like he didn't meet. So for example, last week, I know both of us grabbed Josh Fleming in some leagues for that 2-start week. Right. Like, I kind of like Josh Fleming. He doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, but I was like, hey, if Josh Fleming has a nice week, I'll hang on to him. I think with Gomber, it was a total 2-start streamer for a week, and he's gone off your roster. So maybe that's a little too risky. I don't know. But like I said, I'm not taking any victory laps, but I didn't have any.
Right. And I agree. And the thing is, you're right about the tough decisions we have to make and, trying to get wins. I mean, it is still April, but, you don't want to fall too far behind. You don't want to be like catching up on wins and Ks and, have an insurmountable mountain to climb in July. You don't want to get to that point. You're like, I just can't make it. At the same time, it is April. Nothing insurmountable right now. People get a little bit of luck in the wins. It's weird. Like, my main event teams have more wins than my 12-team online championship teams. They're better pitching staffs by far, which is the opposite of the way it should be.
Yes, yeah, but like you said, that's not the way it should be. But once the bullets start flying and the season's underway, like some of these teams, that's the other thing is some of these teams take on a life of their own. For example, another reason I could see people having streamed Gomber, like if you don't have a lot of closers right now, so, maybe you're going to try to get ahead a little bit in wins and strikeouts. And then hopefully you can run into some closers and use maybe even 3 at a time later in the season. Like, sometimes you do have to plan ahead on some of these things. So like I said, I think it was easy for some of the people to say like, oh, you don't stream or anything like that, and you don't chase wins and all these things. But, sometimes you have to take like educated risks, and this one didn't turn out. And I think almost every week there's a 2-start pitcher. Joe Ross, like we said last week, like there's always a 2-start pitcher who blows up on Monday or Tuesday. At the same time, there's probably at least a half a dozen streamer types every week. One of them blows up. You take your chance. Some weeks you take your chance.
Yeah, that's right. And for every Gomber, and by the way, we have to decide which song is most appropriate. I actually kind of like the suggestion from Paul Popovich, who tweeted us. He goes, Gomber man burning out his fuse up in here and do a little Rocket Man there. But I was going, I am Gomber man, or can't find a Gomber man. But let us know. Tell us in the comments your best horrible pun using Austin Gomber's name, since he already did horrible things to your team. I saw people that picked up Gomber and dropped Rich Hill. And I can't blame him a little bit, though. Yeah. Although Rich Hill was awesome yesterday, 10 Ks. He looked pretty good. I mean, he's never going to throw that hard. So that's one thing. But he looked really good against the A's. Got unlucky on one pitch to Sean Murphy. Sean Manaea got the win in that one. Manaea actually was striking out a bunch of Rays. The Rays suddenly are having a hard time hitting lefties 2 days in a row. They've struggled against lefties. Your Jays did a number on them on Sunday, too.
Yeah.
But yes, everyone, you get some good streamers in there too. You get some Danny Duffys. You get our Josh Fleming that we got last week. You just hope that you get 2 starts and they're not shortened starts.
That's right. I mean, yeah, you don't have to go into the Gomber types and the Danny Duffy types every week, but some weeks you maybe have to take that plunge. And again, it's team dependent. Like if you're way out in front in your league, you don't have to deal with Gomber or Danny Duffy or whatever. Maybe you don't have that pressure, but if sometimes you have to just take the plunge. And if you like picking up someone like Gomber, who again, his strikeout to walk ratio drove me away from him. But, I did see Scott, for example, tweeted out that, a lot of those walks were in his first start and he was starting to make some improvements and he had a decent a good start against the Dodgers. So he's like, and Gomber was someone who people were kind of buzzy on when he was with the Cardinals. So, and we're like, hey, maybe this guy could be something. So now you see him for a week and he's on the road all week and the other team's lineups are decent, but not amazing. And you take a shot. So yeah, tough luck. And as I said last week with Giolito, I don't feel quite so bad because you're going to have Giolito all season. He's going to have some amazing starts. He's going to have some okay starts. It's too bad he had a really bad start, but I still think you'll get a lot of value out of Giolito. What's crummy about the guys like Gomber or Joe Ross when they blow up is this was probably all, like at the end of the year, if you look back in your team box scores, you're going to be like, man, all I got from that guy was 1 week of terribleness.
Right. You still get one more start.
You do.
Yay.
If he goes like 6 innings, 1 run in the next start and wins, which he very well could, I'm not predicting that'll happen, but he could. Like then in the week, sure, you had a bad week with him, but at least you got 1 win.
Right. That's right. So, the thing is, on the same side of that game, there was Kevin Gossman, who threw a complete game, almost threw a Maddox, and, just looked great. It can't be park effects. We know that's it. It's actually in the Rockies in their first game after a homestand are just, when they hit the road, they're usually pretty bad. And so it was like a perfect storm for them on this one here. But he was a streamer, not Gossman. Did I say Gossman? I meant DeSclafani.
Yeah, DeSclafani, yeah.
Anthony DeSclafani. He was a pickup in some leagues. I think in our 15 teamers, he was long gone. In our 12 teamers, he might have still been available, and you could have picked him up for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this Giants pitching staff, to me, has become already like a really interesting story. So they lead the majors in ERA as a staff. They've used 6 starters so far. And other than Gossman, they're all late round or waiver wire guys like DeSclafani, Alex Wood, Johnny Cueto, Logan Webb. These guys were all either late round picks or plucked off the waiver wire. So you could have a decent pitching staff right now, a good pitching staff, just by having all the Giants. And I didn't totally see that coming. And I don't know if it'll continue, but I think the Giants are one of the more interesting stories around baseball right now. Everybody talks Dodgers and Padres, and for good reason. The Giants have a really nice record and they're pitching really well. And they've got a park that's conducive to pitching well. So with DeSclafani, with Wood, when Cueto gets back, like maybe there will be some sustainable value in some of these guys.
Right. That's right. The thing is, it's tough to make some of these calls on the struggling side of things here. We mentioned Rich Hill, how he got cut by some players, and you asked in our show notes, how about Zack Davies? Do you cut him?
Yeah, so I would. In a 15, I already did. Cut him in one of the 15s already. So I'm like, I think most people listening are going to do the same things that I did, where you're going to look at the underlying skills. You're going to look at his velocity. You're going to look at his strikeout to walk rate. Like you're going to look and see if this is just someone who's been unlucky. You're going to look at who his opponents have been. Is this one start that just really blew up his value? Zack Davies did have one really, really bad start, but overall, I'm not seeing it with him. And I watched his start last night. I'd already dropped him in a league, so it's a lot easier to watch him start after I had dropped him.
It's beautiful,
so,
actually.
Especially since
you're like
struggled.
validation homes. Yeah,
that's right. He struggled right off the top, but yeah, I looked at the metrics just beyond just his ERA and his WHIP and everything, and I don't see much. And Zack Davies to me is a guy like so to put his career in perspective, last year in Tout NL, I got him for $1. So like that's the value we had on Zack Davies last season. He was going to waivers in mixed leagues off drafts, and he was $1 pick in an NL only. Well, he had a great year last year. Was probably the best value guy I had on my team. And then this year he was getting picked. I felt in my 15s, he's getting picked maybe like round like 17, 18, something like that. But this is a guy who was just 1 year removed from being someone who started the year on the waiver wire. So when you don't see the skills, I think he can go back to the waiver wire.
Yeah, I think that's probably right about that there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that it's I think it's cutting time for me too. I have them in friends and family. I did not have them active, but that was kind of a
Good.
mistake. I mean, it was the Braves. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
funny. The Braves were really slumping. They got shut down,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden they got shut down over the weekend. Everybody but Acuna is struggling there. They got no hit. First of all, is a hot dog a sandwich? Was Madison Bumgarner's game a no hitter?
So to me, it's not. It's got to be
No.
9. It's got to be 9. I don't know. Maybe I'm an
Well,
old curmudgeon or something, but
yeah.
for me, I think it's got to be 9 innings.
Okay. But they came alive yesterday.
I mean, how many times have we watched guys have no hitters into the 8th inning and then lose it in the 8th or the 9th? So I heard all the arguments like he was asked to pitch 7 innings and he pitched 7 innings and everything. And doubleheader, I don't know. I guess you just can't throw a no hitter in a doubleheader in my eyes unless that doubleheader goes to extras and you throw 9. I guess then maybe I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. A couple other guys I wanted to talk about. No, I did not fall victim to Jordan Lyles. I did not, I've been burned too many times with him, so I did not get beat up by him. Justice Sheffield, I did, because he's got 2 starts this week. Yeah. He's another, but he's a guy I rostered. It wasn't like he was a streamer. He's a guy I just, he's borderline between starting and starting and cutting. I mean, starting and benching every week, but he's not a cut for me. It's just the Houston Astros have a bunch of good right-handed bats. They got Altuve back. One off. Moving on to the next start with him.
So I have him on one team, and I'm getting close to wanting to cut him, but I haven't yet. So I didn't use him for the 2-start week. And you know the old saying, if you're not going to use someone for their 2-start week, then why do you have them? And I think that's only partially true. Like, you do have to look at matchups, and you have to look at who else you have. I just, on that team, I had a lot of other pitchers who I felt like were doing well, and I liked their matchups this week. And and I didn't really like his. I don't see much special going on with him. Like, just looking at his strikeout to walk, it's 20-8 and 22 innings. It's like it's not bad. It's okay. I don't love the 6-man rotation. That makes me.
That's a really good point.
I just skipped probably the last 2-start week he will have until June, July. Like, a 6-man rotation, he won't have a 2-start week again for a really long time. So unless he has a 0-start week, some week where they have a 5-game week or something like that, and it gets him back on the front end. But so I don't know. I'll look at who my options are. I don't think he's a must drop. Like Zack Davies, I was like, okay, I'm done. Sheffield, I haven't been using him recently, but I haven't dropped him yet. And that's in a 15.
Okay. That's fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other starters from yesterday you want to talk about, or should we move on to breaking news?
I think we can move on to breaking news.
All right, let's do that then. Breaking news. Yaddy Molina. This just came across Twitter while we were talking. He got placed on the IL with his foot strain. He's been day to day for a while. The Cardinals finally caved in and put him on the IL. So bad news there. He's off to a great start. 5 homers, hitting .320, batting cleanup for the Cardinals for a lot of this time. It's tough to replace him, especially on it happens on a Tuesday. Unless you're in the league with daily moves, you can't replace him until next week. You probably took the chance and had him active if you own him.
So this one is incredibly frustrating for me, and this is breaking news to me. I hadn't seen it. This was not there when we as we were starting to
raw
record.
Motion coming here. I like it.
My main event team has Yaddy at catcher, as one of my catchers, and along with Jeff Zimmerman, we took the precautionary measure of grabbing Mike Zunino for the week. Especially because he had a couple nice matchups at the beginning of the week, and then Yaddy was in the lineup yesterday, so we're good. We don't need Zunino for the week.
Played yesterday. That's right. It wasn't like today's their first day.
So this is what's so frustrating about it is Sunday they weren't sure if he was going on the IL or not, and then he played yesterday. So you were like, okay, good. I don't need Zunino. It was just a waste of $2 and like a waste of a bench spot for a week, but. I can go ahead and use Yaddy for this week. So he plays last night. He does nothing. Now he's on the IL. Now I can't use Zunino until Friday. Maybe Zunino will just go 0 for 12 between now and Friday. I don't really know. We'll wait.
Save you from yourself, perhaps.
Maybe, but very annoying. You don't see that very often where someone, is going to go on the IL and then they play on Monday and then they don't play after that. Just Zunino yesterday did go. He went 1 for 3. nothing else happened. No runs, no RBI. So that's all I've missed so far. But
Yeah.
it'll be annoying to me if Zunino homers between now and Friday because of Yaddy yesterday.
Catcher homers are fun. They're not as rare this year as they've been in other years. And we heard that stat earlier that they're leading all positions in homers, which is weird. But but Buster Posey has 5. Which hit his 5th last night. Do you have any Posey in your life?
I don't. I'd given up on Posey as a power source. There'd been no power. He was gone last season. I was like, the park doesn't help, and I was like, I think maybe Posey's just on a quick decline. Do you have any Posey?
I have him in the main event, it wasn't like a thing where I targeted him. In fact, I got sniped on Alejandro Kirk, our guy, Alejandro Kirk, that you also just got shut out on all season. But even though, despite touting him, you got me to go after him in a couple leagues. But I'm getting lost in the week. He went in the 19th round, got sniped on him. Ramos went, a couple other catchers went. So I was like, okay, Posey. I was like, Posey or Alfaro, and I was set to go Alfaro, and Shu talked me into Posey, and Shu's proving his worth as a partner already. So there you go.
Yeah, just that move alone proves your worth. That's a huge one. So yeah, he's off to a great start. Good for him. And as you said before, Yachty's off to a great start. And hopefully, since he got hurt Sunday, he played Monday. Hopefully, he just kind of felt something, and they said, let's just give it 10 days, and it's nothing more than that. But I think Yachty's played well enough too that in any 2-catcher league, you don't cut him. In a 1, I guess it would depend what's on your IL, but in a 2-catcher league, I think you keep Yachty for sure.
Yeah, I think you do too. And just, hopefully he comes back with the minimum. I mean, the fact that he played yesterday makes it seem like it shouldn't, at least it'll be, you can't backdate it. That's the one thing that's a negative, but at any rate, lots of other news. Cubs news. Javi Bias sat out yesterday with hamstring tightness. I think he's missed the last, 2 of the last 3 games. He won't play again tonight against the Braves. Off to a really miserable start again.
Miserable start if you're talking about being an actual baseball player, but a great start if you're talking about being on your fantasy team, because 6 homers and 5 steals is outstanding. Yep. Like his value in a player rater would be great, but as a hitter, he is 35 to 1 strikeout to walk, and his OPS actually is 765. It's actually pretty comparable to. It just seems like he can't keep up this level of terribleness in strikeout to walk and continue to have success. Like if he can defy this all season, I think we'll all be very surprised. He's almost like the ultimate sell high right now if you're in a trading league.
Yeah, he is. And the thing is, 235 doesn't even hurt you that much. And that's league average. Yeah. But at the same time. But his teammate, Chris Bryant, is out, got a right biceps injury. He's been dealing with a week or so, as what they said. Is available off the bench. Hit a big homer yesterday. He has 6 of them on the year. He's actually having a pretty good season, Fred.
Yeah, absolutely. This would be his OPS right now is higher than any other season in his career, and his BABIP is not super high. It's 308, so it's not like he's been just really lucky. So this looks like so far a nice bounce back season for Bryant, and that lineup's been bad, but Bryant's not the problem. And, I've been living with some Ian Happ, which has been a big part of the problem. I also wanted to ask you about Nico Horner. Did you pick him up in any leagues? I grabbed him in our labor league and tried unsuccessfully to get him in some other leagues, but he will give them a spark. He hit leadoff last night.
If I could share my screen, you'd see that I'm on Nico Horner's page right now. I was going to bring him up. No, I didn't get him anywhere. Don't have him in a single league. He's batting leadoff and batting, replacing Baez at shortstop and batting leadoff tonight against the Braves. Making a case for more playing time. David Bote is not off to a great start. They made a mistake by sending Horner down. It almost seemed like it was a service time thing because Horner was having a great spring too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so was Bote. So when they did it, I felt, so I actually tweeted out when they sent him down that it was for sure a service time thing and it's the Cubs being cheap. And so many Cubs fans tweeted back to me and were like, not this time, man. You don't know what you're talking about. This is because Bote had a good spring. And I was like, whoa. You can have Bote, who can play a lot of positions on your team and play him 4 days, 5 days a week, rotating him around, and still have Nico Horner as your second baseman. He's earned the chance in spring training, I thought, to get it. But I just was sure, if you guys want to believe what Cubs management is selling you, you just go for it. But that's not the reason why Horner did not get sent down, because of anything related to winning. It was for sure contract manipulation. He's up now. like I said, I got him in our labor league. Only one other person bid on him, which I was surprised about. In my NFBCs, I didn't. And I put in like what I felt were kind of competitive bids for a guy who had only been out for a couple of days. I bid like $30 or something like that, and got shut out everywhere.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, maybe I was being cheap. I don't know, but there's nothing to stop him.
You're just doing your attempt to have the second place bid in every league.
I sure did that. I did that. I finished second or third.
Great success.
With the Cubs, I just think there's nothing stopping him from playing every day. Like Bote's not going to stop him, so he can just be their second baseman. And there's a lot of other players who aren't playing well. So and Bote can go somewhere else and play. He's not going to cover. Well, Bryant gets dinged up. He needs days off. Like he can play some third. So, anyways, I think Horner's really interesting. And in hindsight, maybe I wish I had put a little more in.
Yeah, I can understand. I wish I was a little bit more attuned to him as well. Listen to this lineup for the Cubs today. Nico Horner batting leadoff, Contreras batting second, Bote batting third, Rizzo fourth, Matt Duffy at third base batting fifth, Hayward, Marisnick in center batting seventh, Ian Happ in left field batting eighth. Remember, there's no Jock Peterson right now too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might be tempted to use Ian Anderson in DFS tonight, even despite the ballpark.
Yeah, that's fine. I think you could for sure. This Cubs team, I don't know. I'm not optimistic about them. I think we talked about that last week or the week before, but Ian Happ needs to come around right away because they're getting like Jock Peterson's hurt and he was playing terribly. And I don't think Jock Peterson is someone who's necessarily going to turn it around quickly. Hayward's not good. Like Matt Duffy's actually been decent since they brought him up, but if you're counting on Matt, Matt Duffy should be a bench player for you. I don't know. I don't like this Cubs. I don't like this Cubs roster at all.
No, well, it just shows they're kind of thin. And the thing is, Matt Duffy's a fine backup. Bote's a fine backup. Marisnick's a fine lefty. A guy that you use against lefties. Mm-hmm. But they're just down too many. They take away a couple of guys. Now I think that's probably true of 25 teams that they don't have a whole lot of depth. Not everybody can be the Padres, Dodgers, or Mets in terms of slot the next guy in off the bench and still have a pretty usable player. Most teams they're going to struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah, it's also though for me, it's who's good on the Cubs. Some teams aren't deep, but they have some good players. So Chris Bryant's been really good, and Rizzo's been fine. He's around an 800 OPS. He's been fine, nothing special. Who's good? We just talked about how Javi Bias isn't good, and they don't have a second baseman, and all their outfielders can't hit. And then even on the rest of the team, Kyle Hendricks hasn't been good so far, and Zack Davies has been awful. And I just don't see much on the Cubs where I'm there's a collection of 4 or 5 or 6 good players. So I don't see them keeping pace. I know they've been okay so far as the record goes. They haven't been awful, but I don't see them keeping pace with a Brewers team that's got a lot of good pitchers or a Reds team that's got a bunch of headliners, and same with the Cardinals. I think
they're in the right division. I think the
sure
Brewers, are. They're getting good pitching, but I think they might have been running pure also, and they stopped last night.
Their lineup is another one that's look at the Brewers lineup for tonight. It is not good. Yeah, their lineup without Yelich in it at all times is not good.
Yeah, it's to your point. So while I'm looking at it, we might as well say it. Tyrone Taylor, Omar Narvaez having a pretty good year. Yeah. Avisaíl Garcia was having a pretty good year until everyone mentioned that he was having a good year. And then I think went 0 for 16 last week or something like that. Keston Hiura is batting cleanup. We know he's not having a good year.
He sure is not.
Travis Shaw's been pretty good.
Yeah.
Luis Urias is back. Jackie Bradley, and then Pablo Reyes at second base. So it's a interesting lineup.
How bad is that lineup? That's worse than the Cubs lineup, I think, tonight.
Yeah.
The difference, as you said, the difference is that the Brewers can throw out. Now tonight's just Adrian Hauser, so it's not good. But some days the Brewers can throw out a pitcher who Woodruff.
Hauser's not bad though.
Burns.
I kind of like Hauser.
He's on my device, so I'm using Hauser in some leagues tonight. But I'd say at least 50% likely to go to the waiver wire for me after this week. If he has a good week, I'll probably keep him. But that's it.
Okay.
If he doesn't pitch well this week, it'll depend what's available, but I would be okay with cutting him. How about that?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll buy that.
Yeah.
They're facing a lefty, so no Billy McKinney tonight. That's one of the things they got Bradley back in there instead. Bradley, even with this lineup, he's still batting 7th. Shows that when Kane and Yelich come back, he's probably back to 4th outfielder territory. But yeah, absolutely. A couple other injury notes, and then we'll keep moving on. Luis Robert is on the IL. It's an illness, flu-like symptoms, but they don't think it's COVID, but I think they're trying to be safe. I don't know. Does that mean he'll be back in 2 days?
Yes.
I think it does, right?
Yes. It means he can be. So,
can be.
Yeah. So like, I think that's what it means is they'll get him tested, and if the test comes back negative, then as soon as he's feeling better, he'll be back. So anytime this is the first year, right, where anytime you see IL, I saw on the weekend, Diego Castillo IL, Greg Holland IL, you have to quickly, they're both back in we're back in no time. Like you have to check and see.
JD Martinez, a lot of people had him out of the lineup. There was 3-homer game on a Sunday after he was out on Saturday. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yes. That was a late decision, even I think on the Sunday game. Oh, he's back. You can use him. So, that's something that people have got caught up on. I guess it's just really have to read the notes as best you can, and unless they actually say he tested positive, you should be ready. Just be ready to move him, I guess. But the problem is in most of our leagues, you don't have daily moves. So if it happens, say like the NFBC, it happens on a Friday. Well, okay, I'm going to scratch him for the weekend. And then you lose 3 homers. Bad luck for you.
Yeah, you could and Roberts. There it is. Like I can't remember. I don't think the White Sox played last night, so you could still in an NFBC move him. So if you could move him out right now, would you?
For 3 days?
Yeah, I think I would.
Well,
I think I
would. Who
would.
do you have to replace him?
Yeah. Well, I don't have him. I actually don't have no Robert on my team this year. But if I had just a bench, okay, so let's say Jackie Bradley. Like let's just say you have a bench Jackie Bradley type who's in the lineup tonight. Would you? Now I know Jackie Bradley isn't the right example because I believe they played last night. They did play last night, so he's not perfect. But you know what I mean? A Jackie Bradley type.
I do know what you mean.
A bench type. Would you just take the probably 3 games from Jackie Bradley over hoping for 1 or 2 from Robert?
Yeah, I think so. I think I would, because even if he misses 2, if Robert misses 2 games, I mean, I think it's good.
I think I'd at least take one quick look at who the Thursday starter is against Robert. And if it was someone I thought he could really feast on, maybe I'd consider him, but probably not. It'd have to be that kind of situation where I look at Thursday and I'm like, oh, wow, if he's back Thursday, like they could score a lot of runs on that player. And then maybe I wouldn't go to Jackie Bradley or someone like him. But I think I'm probably pulling him out till Friday. But I bet he's back by then.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Okay, couple other notes. Brandon Nimmo, day-to-day with a hip injury. He only had 2 games. If you can swap him out, do so. I mean, that's the thing is, in a lot of leagues, you probably can because there's a lot of teams that are off yesterday. I think there are 14 teams that were off yesterday, so you should be able to pull it off.
That's right. Yeah. Something with Nimmo too that I like. This just always I wrote him up for Yahoo today. About him maybe being a sell high right now if you're in a league with trades so his BABIP is the highest in the National League. So obviously his batting average is going to come way down. I think everyone knows that though. Like he's not hitting 370 or even going to hit 300, but he's a pretty, this isn't related today, but he has a pretty long injury history. So last year he kind of came around in that area and played 55 games, but generally in his career, it's a pretty decent injury history. So if you're in a trading league, like after he gets back from this hip, like if he can hold a high batting average for a few more days, I might look to move him before that comes down or before he ends up with an injury at some point. I don't think of him as a durable player.
See, I think of him a little bit differently because I have him in 6 leagues. So therefore it's all pure. And what he is doing is great. Although he's had some nagging injuries, all right. And I think he was on my bench in a couple of those leagues this weekend because of that. Because he had to make that Friday decision after he sat out on Thursday. So that was and if you think it's a 50-50 call to begin with, then all right. Byron Buxton sat out yesterday with tendonitis on his knee. This is speaking of guys in that same sort of genre, that always seem to have something going on.
Yeah. And I've talked about Buxton before here where he's played amazing. Full credit. He's played amazing. 1242 OPS, 6 home runs already. I have 0 Buxton. I'm just still in the let's see what his numbers look like in September. Let's starting with games played. Let's just see where this goes because we've already had now a couple little things. We'll see. I mean, if he can have a 1000 OPS, then he can have an IL stint or 2 and will still be worth where everybody drafted him. But there's guys like Buxton who look great for a while, but I want to see him do it for a full season.
And then, and one of the things you always run into is how many of his homers, for instance, are going to be on your active roster because you're waiting for him to come back. Maybe you wanted him to play one game before you put him back in your active lineup, or maybe it's just like, you weren't sure if he's going to play that week and then he plays 5 games that week. That's the nightmare in a way sometimes. So labor and tout, that's what you have to do.
That's right. And I do think with guys like Buxton, so I'll recommend sometimes in an article maybe trading him away. But the reason I want to trade him away is the reason I didn't draft him in the first place. So if you drafted Buxton, it's because you saw the warts and chose to look past them and see the positive sides of him, and you drafted him anyways. And you drafted him like decently high. Like you weren't getting Buxton this year around 20. So you invested, you got Buxton. Like it's time to just live with these warts and of him and these little injuries. And maybe you got to pull him out of your lineup sometimes for half weeks or whatever your format is. But this is kind of what you signed up for. So when I say like to someone, like I would trade him away, well, that they probably shouldn't, because that's why they took him. They took him because they're willing to live with some of these things and the risk of injury that comes with them. I used to always say that with Chris Davis on the Orioles when he was good. He'd have these wild swings, like where he'd have 1 homer 1 month and 13 the next month. And I used to say, like, if you drafted Chris Davis, like you knew what you were getting into. You were on a trek to 45 homers at a very uneven pace. So you had to ride the slumps and just leave him in your lineup. Otherwise, like, why did you pick him in the first place? So like you either pick him and when he's really hot, you trade him for a lot, or you pick him and you just ride him all season, but you don't pick him and then dump him when he cools down, because that's just wasn't how Chris Davis rolled when he was in his prime. It was not an even contribution.
Unfortunately, he just kept on rolling.
Then he kept rolling downhill. He sure did. Yeah.
All right. We're going to talk April decisions in a second, but first, a quick note from our sponsors. All right, Fred, you were talking a little bit earlier about how you have a tough call to make sometimes with like Ian Happ, someone who's off to a terrible start. It's April, though. Had a great year last year. He's had some upside. Now, I don't think you're looking to cut him necessarily. Maybe you are, depending on your league, but benching at the very least has got to be among your options, right?
Yeah, for sure. I thought of a few outfielders kind of taken in that same range as Happ. So I'm thinking like in our 15s, kind of like rounds 10 to 12. Another one was Ryan Mountcastle, who I have on just one team. Another one who I have on a couple teams is Andrew McCutchen, who's just off to a bad start, and even going to Coors didn't get him going. And so he's another one. So it's like I was saying before we started recording, like it's easy to cut the guys you took in round 23. It's even not that hard to cut like Kyle Davies, who, maybe was your 5th starter or something like that. These guys like Happ or McCutchen or Mountcastle, they might have been like your 2nd outfielder who you drafted. Right. If you're in a 5 outfielder league, like you thought when you drafted these guys in rounds 10 to 12 that they were like plug and play, like not leaving your lineup, maybe a Monday, Thursday leave when they have 2 games once in a while, but basically not leaving your lineup all season, and they've been awful. So I think in a 15, I'm holding these guys, but in a 12, I'm not in a lot of 12s, so I can't really totally decide, but I don't know. But then in a 12, they weren't round 10 to 12 picks. In a 12, they were around like 13 to 15 picks. It's like at the end of April.
Makes it an easier decision for sure. Yeah,
for sure. So it's like, is there a round? This was me kind of like, maybe this was me asking you for advice. Like, I'll lie down on the couch, Jeff, tell me what you think. But it's like, is there a round where you don't drop a guy at the end of April, no matter how bad he's been, given you have to say for sure that he still has his role, like he still has a playing time, and that he's not hurt. Like, it's easy to say like, oh, I'm going to cut, like we were talking before we came on, like you can cut Jordan Hicks or someone like that who just doesn't have the role you expected. Or maybe if someone's been benched, a hitter's been benched, then maybe you could cut him. But if he's like Happ or McCutchen, where he's still playing, he's just playing poorly. Like how high up the round, like in a 30-round draft, how high up can you go at the end of April and cut him?
That's a great question. Some of it I think does depend on your alternatives. Like, tell me again who you'd put in. Like, I mean, I guess you're thinking you're not going to cut. You're not cutting Happ. I think age has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Although McCutchen's still batting leadoff. I mean,
I was going to say, would you be more likely to cut McCutchen because he's older?
I would, except he's still batting leadoff in front of some pretty good hitters, which means he's still got the. Even a bad McCutchen can score a lot of runs in that lineup.
Yeah. So I think the biggest factor is probably what else you can do with your bench. So if we're thinking NFBC mindset, it actually just depends how many injuries you have. If you're carrying like 2 injured people, you can probably keep someone like Happ or McCutchen on your bench, and then until he heats up and be like, well, I'll still use him like if I have to midweek because someone's hurt, but I'll start the week with him. I'll just count him as a bench player. If you got 4 injuries or 5 injuries in an NFBC and nowhere else to put them, then you probably got to keep these guys in your lineup or cut them, and that makes it a little bit trickier.
Yeah, it's funny though. Like looking at the lineups for Tuesday night, Brad Miller's in left field in place of Andrew McCutchen. McCutchen's hitting 154, 300, so he's getting on base, but a 231 slugging percentage. No, I didn't bench McCutchen this week. I kind of wish I had. Sometimes you don't even realize how bad a player's been sometimes. And you're just like, and I have him in a 15. I have him in one of my mains. But 7-game week, I thought, but no, not so much. Not so fast.
And this makes sense. If he doesn't start hitting, he's probably going to sit at least once a week. I mean, like they'll probably do some things like that, like back off him a little bit, and just to give him a chance, I don't know, to clear his head or whatever. But like he'll probably lose like a little bit of playing time. I guess what else is probably worthwhile is just, I think we've hit the point in the season where you have to start looking at some of these guys in your active lineup who your eyes normally just scan right past and start thinking about what you want to do with them. Because I find when you look through your lineup, you're just like, okay, like Freddie Freeman, okay, I'm going to leave him. Okay, like, I started thinking a bit about Kevin Biggio last week. The Jays had a lot of matchups against lefties, and he was off to a poor start. So like he would normally be someone, Kevin Biggio, who I just skip by with my eyes and think, oh yeah, he's in. He's like my 5th round pick, 6th round pick, whatever, he's in. But now you have to start stopping maybe at some more of these guys who you thought were the plug and plays and start thinking like, oh, maybe that's actually the guy who I want to take out of my lineup. I left McCutchen in our labor league. I think I have McCutchen, and I think that's where I have him. And I left him in, but I probably should have thought a little more about it.
Yeah, I hear you. Getting some good suggestions on this one. The cut line guys. This is one you may have already thought about already. Detroit B-Ball says, when will Andrew Vaughn get everyday ABs? And I'm looking tonight. No Luis Robert, no Eloy Jimenez, no Andrew Vaughn. Still, I already cut him in one mixed leaguer, but it's a Yahoo league with only three bench spots. Right. I mean, 3 outfield spots. Okay. I can't in that league though. It's a I think it's 14 teams and it's mixed. So I think that was a cut. Friends and family. I don't know I don't know who has them in that league, but it's very perilously close to a cut, even though you believe in the talent, but you actually have to be able to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's going to go back to the minors. I think that's where we're at with Andrew Vaughn. That's my guess, because they can delay his service time. It doesn't have to be from the start of the season.
That's a really good point.
Right. So they gave him a shot, and this is fair. And I think this is like when I was like criticizing the Cubs with Nico Horner, and I'll criticize the Mariners on Jared Kelenic, who should be up on a team that's off to a surprising start. But with Andrew Vaughn, I think this was kind of, I mean, they didn't maybe give him enough playing time, but they gave him they probably didn't give him enough playing time, but at least they gave him some shots, and he didn't take off in a hurry. And I think maybe they're just kind of stalling and keeping him on the roster until the AAA season starts in about a week. And then maybe he goes down to AAA and they give him a month down there, and surprise, they delay his service time a little bit. And then he comes back up once he starts raking in AAA. So to put Vaughn in perspective for me, in one of my 15-team NFBC leagues, he got dropped and I did not bid on him. So that was, I guess that I don't see the playing time. And I think maybe it's more likely he's in the minors and then he turns it around and helps fantasy teams right now. Still a great long-term prospect for sure.
Didn't play on Sunday, so this is 2 games in a row and 3 full days without him starting.
Yeah.
Yet he's 4 for his last 10. He's had hits in his last 5 games. Tony La Russa.
Is this Tony La Russa just being an old curmudgeon and not? I don't know, but like, then why did you keep him on the roster in the first place? Maybe this was their plan all along. Was we're going to put him on the roster in April. We're going to play him a little bit because at least that's better than the alternate training site. And if he's raking, okay, we'll start playing him a lot. But if he doesn't rake right out of the gate, we'll just use him as a bench bat. And May 1st, May 4th, whatever, he goes down to the minors and spends 4 to 6 weeks down there.
Yeah, he just had to be Yermin Mercedes and hit like 7, 8 for your first 9. Then you've earned playing time. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all we ask.
And let's be honest, that probably did cloud Vaughn's playing time a lot. Like Mercedes
absolutely.
came out so well that he couldn't be benched.
Yeah, it's just with 2 starting outfielders out, he still couldn't play. That's the thing that kind of gets me. Another one on the line. This one's from Gator00 asked Clint Frazier. This one cuts close to me too. It's close to the cut line for me. Definitely a bench in the 12-teamer. Yeah, I mean, Clint Frazier's not playing every day. He's batting 8th when he does. I think he has 1 RBI so far this year. Fred, this one hurts. I think I got him in labor in the 10th round or 11th round, something like that.
Yeah, so I was not on the Clint Frazier bandwagon at the beginning. So this is probably one more for you. But so when I look at him, you're right. I see almost all of his plate appearances have come hitting 7th, 8th, or 9th. He hasn't played well. I don't think the Yankees have a long history of kind of jerking him around, but we thought maybe we were finally past that. Like this was his chance, right?
Yeah.
This was finally last season. He was a part-time player. Like this was finally his chance where he was he could have just done it. He just had to have a nice start to the season, and he didn't. And I think that now they'll start limiting his playing time, hitting him near the bottom of the lineup. I think in a 12, I would be comfortable cutting him. What about you?
Only because I don't know. I thought this is one of those guys I had like 4 in 4 leagues. Pride is kicking in here, and I don't know. It probably comes before the fall. How many times do we say, okay, it's been cold out, it's only April, be calm, be patient, and then certain guys we give that to, other guys we don't. I just feel like, do I know any better about which ones are more likely to have that excuse be pertinent and which ones are just excuses?
No, I think with Frazier, it's more about that his playing time, like with McCutchen, like we know that if McCutchen comes around, the full-time role's like fully there for him. The Ian Happ, same thing. With Frazier, I just think like he's going to have to hit well just to get back into a full-time role. He's going to hit well just to get out of the bottom of that lineup, which I do think is going to eventually be a good lineup. I just don't know. He doesn't steal bases too. That's another one that makes me like, it's not like he's going to be stealing bases in the summer and I'm going to be like, man, I could really use those. So I think I would be comfortable in a 12 letting him go. And at 15, I would probably keep him because there's just no outfielders on waivers. So I'd probably at least I would keep him, I think, at a 15.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a good week for us, right? It's Baltimore. It's Detroit.
This is the week.
Terrible Matt Harvey. Forget that he has a good BVP for a second there. But it's Matt Harvey. Should be torching him, but it hasn't happened yet. That's what it gets frustrating with that. But yeah, he's still playing, and he's playing almost every day. So that's the other thing that kind of like, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the pitcher version of the cut line. Amir Garrett. All right. I have him still in friends and family. He's not going to close anytime soon. I mean, that pitch that Seager hit out last night, that wasn't a bad pitch. Seager went down and got it. But, I think that at some point you're just like, I can't keep hitting. The velocity is not bad, but his fastball is getting torched. His slider is the one that got hit last night. I'm benching him for the foreseeable future. I'm not cutting him yet, but that's only in friends and family, which is a 16-team league, and we can just you don't have to keep a guy active while you roster him. You don't even have to have 9 full pitchers if you want. You can just keep an empty pitcher spot if you want, just to see if he turns it around. What do you do with Amir Garrett, Alex Colomé, a couple of guys like that?
Okay, so let's start with Garrett. So who gets the next red save chance then? Pardon me.
Go ahead. I think it's Sims if he's available. He pitched like 1 2/3 yesterday. TJ Antone threw 3 innings.
TJ Antone's amazing.
He's the boss. He is amazing.
I
do like TJ Antone Day. Just wish it would happen more often, or every 5th day is what I'd really like to see as at the start of a game. But I think we're going to get there eventually. It might be Doolittle. It might be Jose De Leon tonight if they get to that situation, which I don't think they'll get. But so
my pick is Doolittle, and this is like just a hunch. So if you're listening, you don't have to rush out and grab Doolittle. But I'm with you on Garrett. I think Garrett just needs to go to waivers. I think I would be pretty confident sending him to waivers. Sims I would want to have. But my thought maybe is that the back end of that bullpen has been, it could be Sims. It could totally be Sims. But maybe the back end of that bullpen's been messy enough that they'll just give a shot at some point to the one guy who's been a closer before. And that's Doolittle. So I wondered if Doolittle would at least get a chance. And then if he doesn't, like he won't have a lot of, like his numbers this year aren't good, but his FIP's 381 at least, which is like tolerable. But he's got 111 career saves, and the rest of the guys put together probably don't even have 11. So I wondered if Doolittle, if maybe this could just be one of those times where the manager's just like, oh, let's just give the guy a shot who's got a lot of saves in his career. And maybe he won't melt down, and maybe we can get some saves out of Doolittle. So that's just my guess, but I would want to roster Doolittle or Sims if I was save speculating, but I think I'm ready to move on from Garrett.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think the Reds have to. Jose De Leon's a dark horse, though. Don't forget about him. Yeah, you look at the ERA and WHIP, you're like, okay, easy to write him off. 27 strikeouts in 13 innings. The stuff plays. He gets, the problem with him is he'll get two guys out and then he'll like fall behind the next hitter. Next thing you know, he's walked a guy and then he gets a home run. He's had 8 walks and 4 homers allowed. That doesn't play. But and maybe that's why he can't close, is because he nibbles too much. But
how many of those homers came as a reliever? None. So maybe he's had 4 relief outings. In one of them, I'm sure you have vivid memories of all these, because I bet you live and die by these Reds games more than I do. It's like how I can recount Blue Jays games, but he's had 4 relief outings. He's thrown an inning or less in all of them. He's got 2 strikeouts at least in all of them. So the problem is he's walked a batter in 3 out of the 4. So, but he's no homers as a reliever. So like, it's a big difference between starting and relieving. Maybe he could be the guy. I don't know, but I don't know if he's been in the bullpen long enough that they'll turn to him in the 9th inning. But you're right, the stuff plays. Like if you just isolate his numbers as in those 4 relief outings, like you just need to see a little better control. But the strikeouts are there. They are. Yeah. Jeff Hoffman versus Walker Buehler tonight. Slight mismatch in terms of the starting pitching matchups. Although Jeff Hoffman has a 2.66 ERA, but there are other metrics that suggest that that's a mismatch. We won't see Antone tonight. I don't think we'll see Sims. I think, and David Bell even said the Saturday before the start of the season, I was doing my second main event, and at one of the breaks, news came out and said, we're not going to name one closer. He's been consistent with that. Same with Charlie Montoyo. And sometimes we want to kind of advance what's going on and what the manager says and turn that into, oh yeah, but wait till he actually uses them. You'll see. Well, sometimes he actually holds true to that. And that looks like kind of is the case here with the Reds, with the Blue Jays. Yeah, except Charlie Montoyo is starting to look like Rafael Dolis is his closer, at least for now. That is starting. It's an interesting development, right? Yeah, I think it doesn't help that Romano didn't look like himself when he first came back, and they had some other injuries, obviously Merriweather, but and Chatwood was gone for a while. But it's starting to look like Rafael Dolis maybe is his closer. I don't think he's the Jays' closer all season unless he just keeps converting. But like if the Jays have a safe chance tonight, I would be surprised if it's not Dolis. I'd be surprised. So I think he's starting to work his way in. Good for the people who went out on a limb. I wasn't one of them. I think going back to the Reds, I think you're totally right with Sims. Like Sims threw 1 2/3 last night. Like they're not treating him like a guy they want to bring back. He might not even be available tomorrow. So after an inning and 2/3, he might be, but he might not be. So like you're right with the Reds. Although with the Reds, I think different than the Blue Jays. I think he said he wasn't going to have a closer, and it also helps that nobody's pitched well enough that you would even consider like committing to them as the closer so far. Right. So one other note on Sims. I'm not that worried about him. His one bad outing on last Thursday was his 3rd day in a row of pitching. I don't think he had ever pitched 3 days in a row prior to that. And it was at the tail end of just a god awful series. And he had horrible luck on that one in terms of stranding runners. CNL Perez came in and gave up a triple. I think they actually got a 4th place. So it was only 2 inherited runs scored, but still it was pretty bad. Anyhow, quick note before we move on to a couple other topics. We're going to share a couple notes from our sponsors here. Do you play fantasy football? Do you love the NFL draft? Well, you're in luck because Champions Round has created a fantasy game specifically for the NFL draft. Big Board Showdown. Playing is simple. Pick 12 prospects, stay on budget, and watch your team rack up points based on where they're selected.
Download the Champions Round app and make your picks today. Hashtag you got next pick. And then our other note is from our friends at Underdog. Football season approaches, and you've got to check out these new best ball leagues on Underdog. With this draft, I think a lot of people are going to be interested in doing some best ball leagues right after that. Best ball is the ultimate test of your live draft skills since there's no in-season management. That's right. Draft your team, and Underdog automatically credits you with your best performing players every week. You don't need to play the waiver wire or worry about trades. It's just the draft. Who doesn't love drafting? In Underdog Best Ball, you can draft as many times as you want because you don't have to do any roster management, saving you loads of time. Underdog's Best Ball leagues are drafting right now, starting at just $3. Once the season starts, Underdog also has daily fantasy and an all-new pick'em game. Go download the Underdog app now to get in on some best ball before the season starts. Enter promo code ROTOWIRE with your first deposit, and Underdog will honor a money-back guarantee during your first month. Love Underdog or get your money back with promo code ROTOWIRE. Search Underdog in your app store and enter promo code ROTOWIRE. All right, got our business out of the way. A couple other things I want to talk about, Fred. How about your guy that you have rostered 0 places is Shohei Ohtani. Got the win, had 9 strikeouts, did some damage at the plate. Almost didn't get out of the first inning, though. That was the weird part about that start.
Yeah, I mean, like fantasy aside, though, just like what happened last night is just a remarkable performance. Yeah. Like just as a baseball fan, to have him starting, striking out 9, winning the game, getting 2 hits, scoring 3 runs, getting 2 RBIs, like hitting second. It's remarkable. It doesn't totally change my fantasy view of him. Although I wonder in a fantasy league, like, would you, if you're in a one Ohtani league, would you ever use him as the pitcher, or are we just down to like just use him every week as a hitter?
So it's funny. Scott and I were talking about that Sunday night, and I'm just like, use him as a hitter. And during the first inning, we're like, he may never pitch again. Oh, or he may get 9 strikeouts and get the win and be this fascinating guy. Now, Liz and I were talking about making, the super like commish service app would be to have one Ohtani and be able to get both at the same time. Could you actually do that? No, I know in auto new leagues, you can do, it's a day of decision. You get this, he is one Ohtani and you have to decide each day whether he's a pitcher or hitter. Even then, it's still kind of tricky. But against Texas, I guess you're using him as a pitcher. Liz actually used him as a pitcher this week, even though the Angels have they have 6 games. I think they face all right-handers, if I'm not mistaken. It's a pretty good setup for him there to use as a hitter, but he used him as a pitcher. I think he just needed the wins and Ks more, and it was a gamble that paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And that is a gamble. I'm impressed because like that's his first 5 inning start of the season.
Yep.
I think we'll see. It's so far from us doing our projections for next year, but until I see a little more length out of him, if he continues to hit this well, then next year, if you're in a one Ohtani league, I think you just project out his batting stats, and that's where you value him. And if you ever do decide to use him for a week as a pitcher, then that's fine. But and I know pitching is hard to come by, but if he's going to play, I mean, he's not going to be like a 1,000 OPS player all season, but if he can be someone he even steals a few bases, like if he can be someone who hits some for home runs and steals some bases and has a decent average, like that's it. I can find someone else to give me 5 innings a week.
Yeah, that's
even if they're good innings.
Yeah. Ohtani gets 2 starts next week, though. Home starts at that. Home against the Rays and then the Dodgers. He may not get 5 innings in that one. The way they work the count, Tyler Mahle had like 94 pitches in 5 innings yesterday, and he was pitching well too. Mm-hmm. So
I know that'll be a marquee matchup, though. So the Dodgers one, is that on a Sunday? That's on the Sunday.
That is. It's Monday and Sunday next week for Shohei Ohtani.
That'll be a marquee matchup. He will be geared up for that one against the Dodgers. So I know that'd be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it could very well be. Forrest, we'll take this question real quick. Forrest Law asks, what are we expecting of Domingo Hermann tonight against the Baltimore Orioles? Davey Garcia wasn't very good yesterday, got sent down right away. Means 2 starts for Kluber this week. Instead of going 6, but that was maybe one of the likely outcomes anyhow, is, they wanted to go 6 stars to get everybody stretched out again a little bit. But Domingo Hermann had 1 good start after 2 bad ones. What are you expecting tonight?
one good start after 2 bad ones and an extended break, right? He went to the alternate site.
Yep.
Maybe worked on some things a little bit. I would use him tonight. I think he'll be fine. I like we'll see. Like maybe he'll be great, but I would be surprised if he was really bad tonight.
Yeah, I'm doing the Tout Wars DFS contest on DraftKings, and frankly, I was having a hard time finding pitchers that I really wanted to go with. I was like, I'm gonna have to pay up. Now this Cubs lineup might be steering me a little bit towards going ahead and using Ian Anderson. We'll see about that. I was going to pay up for 2 of the top guys, and I usually can find a pitcher in the 7,000s that I like. Last night it was really lucky it was Desclafani, but I looked today and I just didn't see too many I like, Fred. I mean, so maybe that's an option to go that route with Hermann.
Yeah, I think that start with Hermann. I would use him in DFS, but I'd use him in 10.
Oh wait, that's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
Kluber tonight. Never mind.
I see. Either way, I would use Hermann. When Hermann goes tomorrow, I would put him in my lineup.
Yeah.
And maybe you can get him in your DFS tomorrow.
Klubot, on the other hand, not so much.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. There's been some of these like reclamation project former glory starters have really left us high and dry. He's kind of one of them. Paxton was another one where all of us like we didn't really want Paxton much in February drafts, but then all of a sudden we were like, no, the old Paxton's going to be back. Oh no, wait, all the reasons we didn't want him because he's super injury prone. And I know, like, I'm not hating on him for needing Tommy John surgery. Like it just is what it is. I wish that his career had been going smoother for him, but him and Kluber, when he signed with the Yankees, this is a sidebar rant, but when he signed with the Yankees, I was like, he will be overdrafted because he signed with the Yankees. If he had signed with Cincinnati Reds, he would have been drafted much, much later.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. Although that would have been a mistake because the Reds are awesome at turning in these guys into Cincinnati, but just don't relieve and you're fine. But okay, one last guy to bring up before we sign off for today: Jazz Chisholm. 2 stolen bases last night. He's batting leadoff. He's got power. He could get you. You could be 20-20-20. 20 stolen bases, 20 homers, 20 doubles, or 30 doubles, maybe even. I don't know. He's looking pretty good. Is he a future stud, or are the K's going to catch up to him?
So I think a little bit of both. I think the K's are going to catch up with him. Like so far, so he's hitting 279 with a 375 BABIP, and he might be athletic enough to carry like a decently high BABIP, but that 279 average is probably going to go back down towards like 250. Maybe it even goes down to 240. But he's got power and he's got speed. He's someone who I kind of whiffed on. I didn't give him enough credit. I think I need to that's one who I was actually just reflecting on this week where maybe I need to learn from that one a little bit. There's a lot of high strikeout players in baseball right now that are still quite valuable in fantasy. So I think I need to give some of those high strikeout guys a little more grace if they have power and speed. So Chisholm's someone who, if I have him, I'm not anxious to get rid of him. I'd trade him. Hey, you know me, I'd trade anybody if I got a good offer. But I'm not looking to trade Chisholm, even though I don't think he'll maybe be quite this good. And then there is also the whole like the league is going to start paying more attention to him. I think that's something that we don't talk enough about maybe in fantasy circles, but like guys like Chisholm come in and they're hitting like 7th or 8th and everything else. And they're not the main priority of pitchers, or the pitchers haven't really seen them. Like the book on Chisholm will start to get formed, and some teams maybe when they see him again, maybe will have a better plan for him than they have so far.
I think you're right about that, but man, he's fun. He is fun.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not jumping off. Yeah, that
Gallen Jazz trade is evening out pretty well. It's a win-win deal. It looks like to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Gallen's so good. It's just so hard in real baseball. It's so hard to get starting pitching. If Gallen is what I think, Gallen's looked really good since he came back. Gallen's looked really good in his whole career. Like every time he's been in the majors, he's been good. I really like Gallen. I'm glad he's come back. Come back in full force. So yeah. All
right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today. I thank everybody for chiming in the comments. Hopefully, and appreciate everyone that was following on live, and those of you joining us later on the podcast, appreciate that. As always, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, please. Please subscribe to RotoWire's video podcast. If you're on iTunes, we always appreciate you subscribing. And listen, you can try out RotoWire's tools on the site, rotowire.com/try. Fred's got an article up on Yahoo. Check that out as well. And we'll be back at you again next Tuesday. We've got Michael Simeone from SB Streamer joining me on Thursday. And then, of course, tomorrow, Clay and James with the Prospect Podcast. Lots of content for you to consume. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.